Welcome to our channel, Behind My Story. Please like, share and subscribe.
I like animals because they live in their own little world with specific rules and laws. It's a well-regulated world, free of biased injustice. Every animal knows its role. For these reasons, I enrolled in a veterinary medicine college to get closer to the animal world and learn more about it. But my love for animals almost got me killed, and I will tell you what happened. I'm Talia, and I'm 19 years old. I'm in my junior year of veterinary medicine. I have loved animals ever since I was a young girl, owing to my dad. Dad was a photographer, and therefore, necessarily a world traveler as well. He would take photos of wild animals all over. Not only that, but he would also study animal behavior, and he wrote many books on the subject. He used to say that animals were cute and lovely, even the predatory ones. If you have ever watched their behavior, you would know how amazing they were. I love all animals, except wolves. Dad died from a wolf attack, so I've avoided anything related to wolves ever since. That is, until one day, destiny put me in a dire situation that forced me to face a wolf. We were on a field trip in a nature reserve, studying the impact of keeping wild animals in different environments. We were studying cubs, young foxes, and young wolves. When we got to the wolf study, I became uneasy. All the young animals were cute except for those horrid wolves. The researchers were feeding them food that differed from their normal diet to observe the impact. My professor picked me among various students to study these small wolves, which was a dilemma for me. I was forced to get involved with the wolf study, but once the professor saw how little I actually knew about the wolves, due to avoiding them all my life, he removed me from the study. To be honest with you, I didn't do my best either, so the professor punished me by sending me to a camp in a rocky area near a forest, along with some of my colleagues, to study more about animal wildlife. What a nightmare that turned out to be. To get there, we had to take a long, tiring bus ride on a long, bumpy road. We pitched our tents and divided ourselves into two shifts, evening and midnight. Some students would sleep, and the others would stand guard in case of danger. That first night, I was in my tent trying to get some sleep, when I heard someone say, "They're getting closer. They're surrounding us." Terror clutched at my heart. I peeked out of my tent to see what was going on. They shouted, "Keep your tent closed. We'll protect you." Suddenly, I heard a loud, terrifying howl. I heard one of my colleagues shout, "Run! Run for your life! They're gonna kill us!" I was shaking in my tent, and I screamed, "Wait for me!" But no one heard. They had run away at lightning speed, leaving me in the camp alone. It was very quiet outside now, with no one around. Maybe the danger had subsided, I thought. So I peeked out a small slit in my tent to see a wolf standing just outside it, staring me in the eyes. His long, sharp fangs clearly visible, with his snarling lips pulled back from his teeth. I knew he could smell me, even without seeing me. Like a trapped animal with its back against the wall, I grabbed a baseball bat in my hand and jumped out, swinging it wildly in his direction. He backed off. I didn't know that he had brought friends. They were standing, lurking in the trees. Of course, wolves were pack animals. I suddenly saw many pairs of glinting yellow eyes in the darkness beyond the campfire. I stepped back against my tent. I saw that one wolf stood in the front. He was obviously the pack leader. I was trembling throughout every fiber of my being. I decided to try slowly reaching for a burning stick from the fireplace to ward them off. That was the moment when the pack leader chose to attack. I blocked his jaws with the bat, but his momentum knocked me down on my back. His snarling, fierce-looking teeth loomed in front of me, separated from my soft, tender, vulnerable face only by a slender wood of that baseball bat. I'm going to die, I thought. He attacked me again, this time injuring my shoulder. They were going to leave scars. Then he backed off and prepared to attack again. His pack watched intently, hungrily, with saliva drooling from their mouths. As I lay there bleeding, Dad's death by wolf attack flashed into my mind and triggered a deep, unexpected outrage that these wolves had taken my dad from me. Courage surged through me, and I made an instant decision to stand up and stand my ground and show these wolves who's boss. The pack leader was circling me, looking for an opening to attack again. I was doing the same, patiently waiting for the right moment. When he lunged at me, I was ready. I swung the bat and hit him hard in the ribs. He went down whining. When the rest of the pack saw this, they all backed up, warily. Their leader got up, unsteady, and turned around, and ran into the woods, with his obedient pack following close behind him. I dropped the bat and fell to my knees. I broke into tears. Yet, I felt an immense relief that I had defeated my enemy and was still alive. When my friends eventually worked up the courage to come back to camp, I told them what had happened. After finishing our field trip and returning to college, I was widely known on campus as the Wolf's Bane. They say that love is one of the most mysterious powers on this earth. Having someone who cares about you, knowing that someone is willing to sacrifice their life for you, is a blessing. Love helps us accept who we are and inspires us to be better people. Though, if truth be told, it is not always easily expressed. What if you can't express it? What if you can't feel it? This is our story today. My name is Amanda, and I am 23 years old. I live with my mom. My only sister is studying in Canada. I've always wanted to travel the world and learn about various cultures, but I guess it wasn't meant to be. I became a teacher, though. I felt that teaching students was a worthy and noble endeavor. I didn't just want to teach them about their school subjects. I wanted to be a friend to them, a part of their life. After I graduated, I looked for teaching vacancies in my neighborhood, and I found an opening at a house for orphans. I took this as a sign that it's where I was supposed to be, so I applied. The manager was a kind woman. She welcomed me and explained what I was supposed to do. She said I would be teaching the students the basics of reading and writing, and that she was hoping that I would do everything I could to help them. These kids were special, and they needed extra care and love. On my first day, the program manager was talking to the kids, and when I entered the room, she introduced me to the class, and they politely stood up and said good morning. Then, I told them a bit about myself, what I like to do, my favorite food, and asked them to tell me a bit more about them. All the students happily told me what they liked. All but one. He sat in the very last row. I called on him to introduce himself, but he didn't answer. One of the girls spoke up and said that his name was Larry, and that he could neither hear nor speak. I started my first lesson, but I was concerned. I asked the program manager about Larry, and she told me that he had witnessed the death of his parents when they rescued him from a burning building, and they died in the process. She said they had tried hard to rehabilitate him, but without success. She told me that Larry didn't have friends, even though the students all liked him. I felt sympathy for him. He had caught my attention from the very first day. Over the next few days, I tried to get him to open up to me by giving him small presents occasionally. He would smile. I read several books about cases like this. They all focused on theory, nothing for practical application. I wanted to help him. Then, it just came to me. I decided to teach him sign language. Of course, I had to learn it first. It wasn't easy, but if it could help him escape his world of silence, then it was worth all the effort. And so I began. I would learn something, then I would teach him what I had learned. He didn't respond at first, and I think he had no clue what I was doing, but I never gave up. Every time I saw him, I spoke to him in sign language. Slowly, the barriers between us began to fade. I decided to teach the whole class sign language too. It would be nice to surround him with friends he could communicate with. It was going fine, but I still wanted to give more. I asked the manager's permission to take Larry home to spend the day with my family. My sister was coming home for summer break. We laughed and enjoyed meals together. The family atmosphere seemed to relax him. When his birthday came, we organized a class birthday party for him. We bought a cake and decorated it. When he entered the class, we broke out into the happy birthday song. His friends presented him with presents, but the best part was when he was able to express his appreciation and gratitude using sign language. We could all see how happy he was. Later, we discovered other things about Larry. For example, he loved to draw. This was my first step. A good first step.
My name is Ginny. You can call me Bad Girl if you like. That's what the neighborhood kids called me. I have a long story to tell you. I was the eldest of 5 siblings. My mother died of illness, and my father was crippled in a car accident. He couldn't walk, and he had to use a wheelchair. Seeing my siblings suffer from hunger and poverty was a constant sight at home. My father was depressed. Our neighbors helped us a lot, but I was constantly worried what would happen if they ever stopped, so I decided to try and find a job. I knew it wouldn't be easy because I was only 15. Who'd want to hire a 15-year-old? Though I was apprehensive and lacking confidence, I made up my mind to get a job. I went to many places: clothing shops, flower shops, grocery stores. The answer was the same: we're not hiring at the moment. One day, feeling down, I was walking aimlessly with no destination in mind, when suddenly I found myself near a hospital. On an impulse, I entered. I saw a nurse, but she seemed too gloomy to talk, so I looked around and found another nurse who looked a bit kinder. She noticed me and asked if I needed any help. I told her that I was looking for a job. Any job. I'd even mop and clean. She felt sympathy for me and told me not to worry. Then she went into the manager's office. I was worried. Was I in trouble? A minute later, she called me in to meet the manager. He seemed very kind, and he quietly asked for my name. I told him it was Ginny. He told me that Martha, the kind nurse who was helping me, told him that I was looking for any job available. He said he had a job for me, but he was concerned that it might be a problem. I felt a pang of fear and asked what the problem was. He said that I would have to work night shifts. That was it? I felt so relieved. I immediately agreed, and he said that he liked my enthusiasm and that I could start tomorrow. I was so happy. I returned home quickly, hugged my siblings, and kissed my father's hands. I told them everything about my new job. My father looked at me sadly and said that I was too young to have to bear this responsibility. I told him that it was okay and that I could deal with it. When I went to work at the hospital every night, there was a gang of young kids who were always loitering around the neighborhood. I hoped they wouldn't bother me, but my hopes were in vain. They made fun of me every time I passed them. I never told my family about this, though. I began work as a cleaning lady, but due to my diligence and intelligence, I was able to learn a little bit about nursing. So, I was able to get promoted, first to nursing assistant, then to a nurse. My colleagues supported me a lot. Everything was almost perfect, except for the neighborhood gang that was always bothering me and calling me Ginny the bad girl. I wished they would just go away and leave me alone. Then, one day, a miracle happened. While I was working at the hospital, the neighborhood bullies came in, carrying their leader. He was badly injured. His whole body was covered in blood. They were shouting for someone to help them, and when they saw me, they pleaded with me to save him. I worked quickly with the other staff. His condition was serious. He had been in a terrible motorcycle accident. The staff and I worked feverishly to stabilize his condition and treat him. After stabilizing him, I was exhausted. Suddenly, I felt someone coming close. It was the gang. They apologized for making fun of me and asked me to forgive them. They said they didn't know that I worked at a hospital. I smiled and told them it was okay, and that I considered them to be my brothers and sisters. Another nurse went to them and told them that their friend was okay now. I was so happy that my problem was solved. They called me over to talk to their leader. He had tears in his eyes and told me that he was so sorry and asked me to forgive him. He was so sincere that I was moved. I gently asked him to be quiet and get some rest. As I was walking away, he called me and thanked me again. After that incident, the manager called me in and praised me for saving the patient's life that day. I was still a long way from achieving my dreams, but I had a good head start, and the neighborhood gang began calling me the Mercy Angel.